Oh, he's doing good. As we discussed earlier, he's been shifted over. I guess it's called the MOS.
Yep.
His MOS was shifted to 0352. He should be getting his orders this week.
Okay.
And 0352, for those of you who don't have the background, and I'm learning this as my son sort of informs me and Pippin here educates me, is heavy weapons. So we discussed earlier there are possibilities. He doesn't know. He's getting his orders this week, going to Fleet.
Yeah.
As far as he knows, the way they're grouping them is alphabetically. So he's going to be with a group of guys that have A, B, C, D, E, F, G last names.
Right.
And it looks like they're taking about 30 at a time. He talked to somebody in another in Alpha company. They got their orders and they said, hey, they're taking them alphabetically.
Yeah.
And then it just depends on which place
he goes.
He goes. And the three possibilities, as far as he knows, are Hawaii, Camp Pendleton, or 29 Palms.
Oh.
Yes.
Good God.
He says he thinks it's least likely that he will stay at Camp Pendleton.
So there's absolutely no chance they're going to East Coast.
Right.
That's good news.
As far as he's been told, informed, and he has at this point, he has no reason to believe. Like when he was at Boot, a lot of times he had reason to believe that what he was being told by superiors was not necessarily the truth, or they were just deliberately vague, or they were like,
so
you know. And then, but he found out after he got out of Boot that the reason that is that the platoon he was in was supervised by a bunch of guys who did not want to be there because something had happened in that platoon.
The drill instructors.
Exactly.
The drill instructors.
The DIs did not want to be there. They had been pulled from other assignments and told, this is what you're going to do. And so it took them a long time to figure that out, but they figured it out like basically after graduate, like the week of graduation.
That is something they should have never been able to figure out. That shows you some serious unprofessionalism at the recruit depot for them to, the image of the drill instructor on the recruit depot. There should absolutely be it shouldn't be able to tell if these are the best or these are the, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean, it's the most elite as far as training wise.
Yeah.
It's the most elite cadre. They're supposed to be the most, they look the best. These are guys that, change their shirts when they start sweating a little, so no one sees sweat.
Yeah.
It's really disturbs me that they were even able to figure that out.
Well,
that was that bad.
And I don't want to badmouth the DIs. Like, it wasn't like my son was complaining the whole time he was there, because there are a couple of things. First of all, you are plunged into a new culture and a new paradigm that you know nothing about.
Right.
You might have tried to figure things out before you went, but when you get there, you don't know any better than what you're being shown.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So it wasn't like he was complaining the whole time. Like, he was jazzed the whole time.
Yeah.
He did, but toward the end, he said there were a couple of incidents, for instance, where a DI from a different platoon came walking through, or a sergeant, master sergeant, I don't know all the ranks, came through, and somebody asked him a question about, hey, this is like 2 weeks, right? This is after the Crucible, or a week.
Yeah.
After the Crucible. Hey, what about this? And the guy literally stood there for 10 minutes and explained in detail what they should expect.
Yeah.
And it was so different than they're asking their own DIs the same questions.
Right.
So for instance, they had posted a schedule for recon testing, right?
Yeah.
Testing for recon. And up until the day before, nobody had said that's completely off. And my son,
you're talking about in MOS school now, not boot camp.
This is at boot. And
they were doing recon screening at boot camp.
Yeah, they had it posted like it's going to be on this day. I don't know if you remember, but Liam was up until the Thursday before that Friday. He's like, yeah, tomorrow I'm testing for recon, and then that day.
But that wasn't boot camp though. That was infantry training battalion. Right?
Or yeah, it must have been.
Yeah,
I'm sorry. You're right. It was when he got to ITB.
Right. Yeah.
So, but then like the day before it was supposed to happen, and it was on the board. They're like, oh yeah, that's all scrubbed. That's all canceled. Yeah. And so, but he had to ask about it like 3 times, to the point where other people in his platoon were like groaning at him when he's like, I hate to harp on this, but yeah, but like at the end, because of that experience they had, and maybe they found out right after they got to ITB, but the impression that Liam had was that something had happened and a bunch of DIs had been removed, and then a collection of them were put together. You know what I mean? To head, and he was in a platoon that got sort of added later. He's in 2147,
right? And
there was no 2146. I noticed in the graduation announcement.
Yeah,
And I thought, well, that's odd. And then I found out that because when Liam and his recruits, when they flew out of Little Rock, there was bad weather in Dallas. They ended up missing a flight, right?
Yeah.
And so they got to Recruit Depot a day late. That also might have explained. You know what I mean? He said found out that his platoon was just made up of ragtags put together. You know, you were supposed to be here. You know, my buddy John, who's a former Marine too, he poked at me on Facebook, said, "Oh, poor Liam, he must have showed up a day late or something because he ended up in 2nd Battalion, not in 1st Battalion, and he was 1st Battalion." You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I don't know what all that means, but you know, the long and the short of it is
not much, really.
He's happy as a clam right now, and he can't wait. I told him to listen to our podcast where you discuss the differences between being part of a heavy weapons company as opposed to being. How did you put it? If he gets it, he might be assigned to a platoon and then be
the way it works is 0352 like you said, it's MOS. It's a military occupational specialty, and that is for a job, not for. It doesn't really determine whether he's in heavy weapons or weapons or whatever. It's just his physical job. So what he was trained for as an 0352, and going back in my day, I don't know what's changed in it, is going to be essentially as an assaultman, which is a rocket guy.
Right.
Okay, it's a rocket marine. It can be a shoulder fired missile, a rocket, or it can be something that's crew served, which would, you know, the if you're firing a javelin, things like that, that would be essentially on a vehicle or mounted onto a vehicle,
right.
and that's the difference in heavy weapons or the weapons. But he was essentially trained on all of it. So when he gets to the fleet as an 0352. He's going to go to an infantry regiment, and in that infantry regiment, he'll be assigned a battalion. And when he goes, so, you know, each battalion is going to have 1st, 2nd, or 3rd, you know.
Right.
Whatever infantry regiment you're with. And like on the East Coast, you know, you have 2nd Marines, 2nd Marine Regiment. It's all 2nd Marine Division. A lot of people get this confused because this is how I catch dudes that are kind of full of shit on you know, because they'll refer to... They'll get designators wrong.
Right.
When you hear someone say 2nd Marines, they're not talking about 2nd Marine Division. Generally, a Marine will call that 2 Mardiv or 2nd Mardiv.
Right.
When they say 2nd Marines, it's the same as when you hear them say 6th Marines or 8th Marines. That's a regiment. They're talking about a regiment. Like, you know, the Rangers will call it, you know, Ranger Regiment. They'll call it 75th, because they have one regiment for the Rangers, okay? Right. The Marine Corps infantry battalions, you know, are set up similar. And so you get to a regiment, and it'll be, so I was with 2nd Marines.
Right.
So let's just say he goes to 2nd Marine Regiment. He's in 2nd Marine Division, which is the infantry division of the, you know, of the East Coast.
Right.
Of the entire division, or the entire, what am I trying to say? So it's the infantry division. Okay, you've got other units there, right, besides the infantry division, but that's it. That's the infantry division. So he goes there. He gets assigned to 2nd Marine Regiment. Then he'll go to a battalion, 1st, 2nd, or 3rd. It's that simple, right? Let's just say he followed my footsteps. He goes to 2nd Battalion, or you know, 3rd Battalion. I'm sorry, it's 3rd Battalion, 2nd Marines. That's what that means.
Okay.
So I was with 3rd Battalion, 2nd Marines.
Right.
Obviously, I'm in 2nd Marine Division because I'm on the East Coast.
Right.
All right.
You were on the East Coast.
Right.
Okay.
Now I went to training on the West Coast, but then they took all of us and sent us to the East Coast. So I went to the same boot camp he went to. Was in the same platoon he was in. Actually graduated. Went to ITB just like him.
Right.
Did all that stuff except for I was an 0311 instead of an 0352.
Right.
But then they moved all of us, our entire class, to the East Coast because there had been a rotational issue with the East Coast. At the time I was in, they called them MUSOCs. Now they're just called MUs. The advent of special operations, the formal special operations divisions kind of replaced the MUSOC, I think they took the SOC designator away from it. But the whole idea is to work up to a MUSOC, which was a Marine Expeditionary Unit. At the time, there was a special designator, special operations capable. And what that meant is that Marine Expeditionary Unit was amphibious, capable of doing certain types of missions that would be non-conventional, right? Not special operations in the sense that we think of it today, but you know, it could do anything from humanitarian to rescuing down pilots, to reconnaissance operations. To there was a maritime special purpose force that consisted of a SEAL team and a recon platoon and things like that. But I'm getting ahead of all that's. You know, you worked up to that. When we